Hello, my name is Stephen Lockwood. What you're about to see is basically kind of my transition, from basically being out of the hospital to like where I am at right now. Um, this this tells a story that honestly is this document is actually something that's very important to my life and something that's had a really recently a big effect on me. And I just hope that you guys will be able to learn something from this, and maybe it'll decrease the stigma of what you're about to see in the mental illness, because people with mental illnesses, they can do a lot of things. Hope you enjoy. Hello, my name is Stephen Lockwood. I just kind of want to address something. You guys know me as the KANKAKEE River Boy, but my actual name is Stephen Lockwood, and there's a few things that you all should know about me. For the last 3 years, as judging by the title of this video, it's going to be about some sort of mental illness. I actually have no work right now, but see, my mental illness, man, that's annoying, was classified as I was diagnosed with major depression and severe anxiety. Now, most people that know me think I'm a pretty chilled guy, I'm pretty upbeat, happy, I work at a great restaurant named Monocle's. If you guys ever want to stop by, Kankakee, Illinois. Most people think that, what do I have to be depressed about? And it is a disease, but my way of coming towards it was so much different, probably, maybe not that much different from, other people, but, ever since I was little, I remember always just feeling so shameful, like I had done something wrong, or that I just felt really lonely inside, just had this constant hole, I just had that constant hole in my heart. I was like, where is this coming from? When I was a really youngster, I was so afraid of death, so afraid of it, and I just so afraid of it. And I remember used to going up to my mom and asking her, what happens when we die, and she was talking about heaven, and I was like, what, forever? And to me, like, forever seemed like a punishment at the time. But at the time, though, I remember just going to my room and start bawling my eyes out for no particular reason. This was at the age of 3rd grade. I mean, I'm sure that, everybody has their ups and their downs, but at age 3rd grade, I should not have been, crying excessively the way I was. And it wasn't like a day, I would go back to normal. This was like a year of intense sadness, and the previous 2 years ago, my uncle had died. Oh, well, hi there, I didn't see you there. But anyway, where was I? I'm glad you're back. Well, that's right, I was discussing my mental illness. We were discussing, a little bit about the stigma and a little bit about everything about it. So, my little story, right? So, there I was around 4th grade, Mom was drinking a lot, just kind of bad time, and, when parents, filed for divorce, that's kind of what it all set in motion. My parents' divorce was very unlike any other divorce. Maybe not so much, actually, but their divorce was beyond nasty. Like, nasty is not a word. Now, if you could put, nasty, times 10, that would be somewhat able to describe it. A little bit. I would come, and here's the weird thing about this, is that, they both lived in the same house, and, well, one would have to move out every single weekend, while the other one would stay in the house. Well, things with Mom and Dad were completely different. Both had their own sets of styles of parenting, and both were just completely different people. Like, my mom tended to be a lot less strict, so if we had a few things out of order, she didn't care. Now, if we had a few things out of order with Dad, it was kind of a big deal. One of the biggest things that we had was Dad hates dogs. Dad absolutely hates dogs. Mom as you can guess, loves dogs. And we had this the cutest little Chihuahua, because I'd always been wanting a dog. Ever since I was little, I wanted a big golden retriever. So would Mom get me a little 2-inch Chihuahua, mixed Boston Terrier? Now, I know what you're thinking. Chihuahua and Boston Terrier, ugliest damn dog you probably ever hope to see. Well, not really. He was pretty cute. But anyway, so where we're going with this? During the times of this divorce and trial, like, I really honestly didn't acknowledge it. Like, you know, everything in life has a reaction to what's going on with it. And my reaction to my parents' divorce was acting out, per se. I remember I would go around ding-dong ditching people's houses. Now, that was kind of fun, I'm not going to lie, but it was wrong. It was wrong. I haven't done that in a while now. But we would go around ding-dong ditching people. I remember this one time, I had this huge party. Like, for parties in the 6th grade, I'm pretty sure that's the all-time best party. But anyway, I was acting out. So, like, whenever my parents, would do something to, like, make me angry, you know, instead of crying, instead of, you know, cutting myself, or having suicidal thoughts, what I would do is I would act out. I would watch inappropriate things, I would say inappropriate things, and I would do inappropriate things. But that's just a little bit of what I did by acting out. Now, I was in counseling for a little bit, but they said I was cured, and so I stopped going. And then a couple of years later, me and Mom were living on a nice little farm. We had about an acre, but, you know, nothing too special. But I remember my grandpa came home one day and was asking, "Hey, Steven, have you ever thought about maybe raising chickens?" And I was like, "What?" Me being an animal lover said, "Hell yeah, let's raise some damn chickens." And at first I was kind of thinking that, like, this is one of Grandpa's, you know, little things he says. You know, he's probably bullshitting and whatnot. And so, I didn't really take note of it. And so I come home one day, and he's like, "Well, I saw an ad in the paper. Let's go get us some chickens." And I was like, "What? You're actually serious?" He's like, "Down in Martindale, Illinois." And I was like, "Okay." So we got some chickens, and we had, you know, of course they told us that there was no roosters, right? No roosters. We ended up getting 2 out of the batch. Now, like, having those things, that was probably the best experience of my life, raising those chickens. Flash forward, say a couple of months later. Well, my dad's girlfriend's kids got ducks, and I'm not gonna lie, I was a little jealous, and so, I was like, you know what, I want ducks too. And, so I got some. Funny story, we actually drove up all the way down up to Big Rock, Illinois. That's about 2 hours away from here, 2 hours north of here. And we got them, and we had the wings clipped on these mallard ducks. And after the first day of us being gone, they flew away. Like they had them clipped. We had them clipped. Like, and they ran or flew away. I let them out for 2 seconds, and they were gone. And I remember we had before they flew away, we had them in the house because we hadn't had our duck pen yet built. And I was picking up. We named them Daryl and Daphne. And well, Daphne was a little stinker. We could tell from the very start. And so, like, I let go of her while she was, like, on my lap, and the duck just started running amok in the house. Like, we're like, "Come on, sweetheart," and she wouldn't budge. But anyway, so after they flew away, pretty upset, but we bought these 2 new ducks, Minnie and Mickey, and those things were awesome. Like, they bred our first, like, little ducklings with those, and I remember the first day coming home and hearing all the peep, 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 and I'm going whack, 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 whack. You know, those are things that'll always stick with me. But, so anyway, now you're like, So how does this relate to mental illness? Well, for my time, that was a really peaceful time in my life. You know, that was my coping area, and those were the ducks, my coping area. Because at the time, you know, it's not that my symptoms went away, it was that they just manifested into something else. You guys all remember Doomsday 2012, right? Well, before I had that sinking feeling in my heart, you know, after I had that sinking feeling in my heart, and I found something that could replace it, a fear. And so I feared, you know, the end of the world. Now, like, this is all sounding nonsense as I'm a high school senior, but for me, it was really scary at the time. But I realize now it was a manifestation of a mental illness. And what I find is so remarkable about, say, these mental illnesses is that, like, at least in my case, I was able to recognize that something was so wrong that I needed to go to the hospital. But anyway, we'll get to that story in a few minutes. But anyway, so let's flash forward. So Mom moved up to this place in Highland because she lost her job. She was looking for a job and couldn't find one. So she had to move up all the way to Chicago. So it was either move to Chicago or go to some nearby suburb. Sorry, I'm driving here and I'm trying to pay attention. And so we chose to move by Mom's boyfriend. You know how far away he lived from us? 1 block. No, that's 3 blocks. But, so, anyway, when I was up there, we met some really nice people up there at first. Hello, guys. It's me, Steven, again. I just got done with therapy for the day. And, wanted to touch back on where we were at yesterday with regarding mental illness. I just kind of want to say something. Like, it's kind of been after me for a while now. If you ask if you're driving, I am driving. Thank you. Like, the reason why it's been so hard, honestly, to admit my mental illness is because it is very hard for me to admit it because I have a hard time admitting that I have a problem. You know, inside I knew, you know, that I had a problem, but on the outside I was just masking it. And I thought, you know, what if I did this, it'll make it go away. You know, all it did was create more pressure and more stress on myself. But I have a letter that when we get to school, I'll read it out loud, and it's just, it's mainly, you know, to help me, but I have to come clean, you know, and face, you know, the fact that, you know, like, my name is Stephen Lockwood, and I have a mental illness, and it's so hard, you know, and the letter I read today, you know, I'll read it to you, but it's pretty sad. It was my treatment plan, and it almost made me cry, because I was like, I don't want to admit this. I really don't. But I know I've got to if I want to live peacefully. You know, I got to. And it's about time, you know, I finally admit it to myself, and, you know, I stopped telling a lie to everyone else that I'm fine, but on the inside, you know, I'm just tired. Really am. I mean, just so tired. But every day, you know, I'm getting a little stronger. You know, that week in the hospital taught me a lot of stuff. You know, just, I was able to have time to do a lot of sleeping. A lot of sleeping. Like, I'm pretty sure I slept about 14 hours a day. I mean, but, you know, and I think another thing is, I have very big self-esteem issues. Horrible. Like one of the biggest things I'm self-conscious about is my teeth. because I don't think they're good at all. But you know, I understand that all this is going to take time. I mean, especially the lady friends. So I took this girl to prom. We were really good friends up in Indiana. So I took this girl to prom and drove her all. Her parents drove her all the way down here, which is like 45 minutes away. And so she gets there, and then we're driving on our way to the prom, and she drops a bomb. She's like, "I have a boyfriend," and I was just like, I was just like speechless, because I was like, why would you come down here if you said that you had a boyfriend? Like, that makes no sense. I mean, you're going to prom. Prom isn't like, you know, that like, let's go with my brother's boyfriend or something, like some crap like that. It's like, it's not something like where, it's not homecoming. Prom is supposed to be somebody, you know, you generally like. You know, you don't have to be like completely romantic with them, but you shouldn't go to a prom if you have a boyfriend. That's insane. Like, and so I took her down here, and and at the dance, she refused to dance. Like, refused to. I think I got her to dance for one slow song, and that was it. Like, I mean, and then the night, like, we had to talk about Highland and everything, you know, and I basically said, you know, it's like, you know, Lexi, you know, I'm gonna have to bleep that out, but, you know, I said, I want you in my life, you know, and I don't want you to go. I'd rather have you in my life, you know, as a friend, you know, than not at all. You know, and I started hurting so bad. And I snapped at the end of the night. Like, I really did. Like, I snapped so much. Like, I'll read what the paper says later, but like, I just, something in me, all those years of build up, they just got to me, and I just snapped. Alright, well, I'm gonna listen to music, and then when I get to school, I'll read it out loud, okay? So I'm back at school, which I have a piece of paper here. Sorry about that. This is my health paperwork. See? It says treatment plan, diagnosis: major depressive disorder, recurrent severe generalized anxiety disorder. Patient experiences feelings of depression, anxiety, loss of motivation, loss of interest, decreased sleep, lack of focus, and suicidal feelings. Patient took an overdose of prescribed medications in a suicide attempt. And amid to St. Mary's patient also has a history of cutting himself. Recently discharged from St. Mary's Psychiatric Inpatient Unit due to suicide attempt. That took a lot for me to read that out loud. Alright. Gotta go to school. Hello. It's been a while since I've been on here. So some few updates. ILP is going well. I'm driving. Things have been going pretty good. You know, life has been good to me lately. I mean, I've went out on a date. You know, just trying to get better. Just trying to stay better. That's the main thing. I mean, but I had some really cool people in this ILP group, and it's pretty interesting. You know, so the other day I gave my speech in class. It's about, you know, kind of like what I've been going through and the people that influenced my life, and I gave a big long spiel about my uncle, Dr. Clay Dahlquist, or as Bronkel as I call him. But he's you know, you have a big spiel about him, just been a really great dude to me. So yesterday, the urge to cut and suicidal thoughts and etc. Have kind of stopped. Majority, about 95%. And it's kind of like my mind's kind of, since I've been on this Paxil, it's been really helping me. Yeah. Yesterday I kind of had yesterday I had a major anxiety attack. Lexies Mom called me, and I don't know how to really feel about that, because at the same time I want to like tell her everything that had happened. I just want to pour out my heart to her, because like Lexi's mom is, to me, is like a second mother, just an unbelievable person. And I mean, honestly, I do love her. Like, she is like a second mom to me, and I think that's the reason why, one of the reasons why I went off the deep end, because my relationship with the daughter was a strained one. It was an exhausting relationship. I would really have to worry about like tiptoeing around her and whatnot, and and that's just not a good, healthy relationship. But the relationship with the mother is outstanding. She's a great person. I mean, there's no way it's around it. For her to reach out to me after everything that me and her daughter have been through, it just says really something about her character. But also at the same time, it just stirred up a lot of pain and emotion. I was this close to forgetting about the entire thing. Like, my IOP group, I didn't mention prom for about 3 or 4 days. And, I had to call them yesterday and tell them I got to take my final for my college class. And they said, they're like, I had to tell them, I said, like, what happened? I was like, I told them, and like, oh, Steven, I'm sorry. I don't know why I'm making such a big deal about this, because, I should be so happy that, this person is reaching out to me and showing these signs of support, but also at the same, in which I really am, but also at the same time, I feel so much pain. It just brings up so much more pain. Oh, we got a hawk jumping right in front of us. Or is that a bald eagle? No, that's a hawk. But it was exhausting to me. I mean, I talk to people at work. Shout out to Monocle's Pizza. But they're like, that's a great gesture. And I talk to my mom, and she's like, that's a great gesture. And I agree, but there's something in there that's causing me a lot of pain. I mean, when her daughter sent me a bunch of mean messages, like, I thought that was it. I thought, like, and my mom said the way the messages sound, because I didn't want to read them, is that, like, her whole family was against me, and, like, I was stalking her. Which I wasn't. I was in the hospital for 5 days. I could not have texted her any of those times. But I was, and it's for her to come out and reach out to me, it's kind of like, it really honestly confuses me. But, like, I'm kind of happy about it, and yet I'm really sad about it. I know some people are saying cut off the relationship. It's just not that easy. It really isn't. When you've known somebody for 2 years, 2.5, going on 3 years, it's not hard. It is hard just to say, be like, that's it, you're done. And, for me, a friendship it's always worth fighting for. Like, anything worthwhile in life is fighting for, whether that be, a high school degree, high school diploma, or getting your first duck, or killing your first turkey, or getting an A on a project that you've really tried hard on. Anything in life is worth fighting for, and especially a friendship. So I think another reason why I feel so much pain is that she allowed our friendship to go down the drain because of one bad night. I don't know if I told you guys about prom, but prom was the worst experience of my life. But yeah, I mean, But other than that, like, I'm doing great, like 100% better, like compared to the week in the hospital. Like, cause when I was in the hospital, like, honestly, it's really hard for me to admit this, because even myself, I'm so used to the stigma of mental illness, just because I've been around it and I've heard people say things about it. The other day, I had my friend Sam was like, you know, Steven, you shouldn't be drinking, which is true, because especially when you have a mental illness. But you know, here's the thing though, like, because so the other day, like at a party, I pretty much just got shit faced, and not gonna lie, it felt really amazing, because sometimes I just needed to let it go, and it was awesome. Like, but before I went there, I was kind of smart about it. Like, I would call myself the smart drunk, if there is such a thing, because if you're probably smart, you probably shouldn't be getting drunk. But anyway, so like, I had this DD, because I knew what I was doing. Like, I knew if I went to this party, I was getting shit faced, and so I was like, I texted this one girl from work, and I was like, hey, can you please pick me up? You know, if I go to this party. And she's like, yeah, sure. So I gave her $10 for gas money. And I had a great time, honestly. I think I had, 10 beers in 1 hour? It was great. Like, and then of course, like, I was the only dude, just the only dude right there at the party to puke. You know, which, that was not fun, but the only thing good about being drunk and puking is that you really can't tell, like, how bad the puke tastes. But anyway, I'm getting off the subject. But, so my friend, he's like, you know, Steven, you shouldn't be drinking, especially with the mental illness. And he was trying to be careful about it. But here's the thing, though. If I am really, which I will admit that I was pretty sick when I went into the hospital. Like, I was beyond sick. Like if you were to compare it to, say, a physical medical issue, you know, like, say, like, your heart or something like that, I honestly, like, I would probably been on a, you know, like a heart pumping machine or something, because that's how close to, you know, doing something stupid I was. But, you know, the thing I think I find remarkable about the brain is that, versus other organs, the brain can recognize that I find it remarkable that the brain can recognize that it is sick. With the arm, say like you have a pencil on your left hand. Say like you have a pencil on your left. Say there's a desk and there's a pencil on it. Your left arm still wants to go and grab it, but also it doesn't recognize that it's sick. Well, with the brain, it can recognize that it is sick, and yet it is sick. Like, that's what I find is so mind-boggling, like the awareness that comes with it. You know, and going back to the stigma of mental illness, you know, I thought about it, and the only difference probably between people with mental illnesses that are receiving treatment and those without is that the people with mental illnesses that are receiving treatment choose to acknowledge their illness, and they choose not to run away from it. Sure, others may come in there involuntarily, but in the end, like, for instance, with the insurance companies, like, you can choose to bullshit this entire process. You can choose not to be honest with these counselors, and you can choose to just be completely dishonest. But for us in that group, when we're completely honest with ourselves and we're completely honest with the counselors, like, we're not getting worse, we're getting better. So when you have the alcoholic out there that's trying to stem the problem, say of schizophrenia, by drinking away his problems away, but refuses to admit it because he's afraid of the stigma of mental illness, like, it's like, who's more stronger, you think? Those who receive mental illness treatment and those without, but recognize that they choose not to receive treatment. Sure, you might lose your FOID card and whatnot, but honestly, I would rather have my health rather than a gun. That's kind of what it all kind of all comes down to. It's like, what would you rather have? Your health? What would you rather have? Your health, or say something that for us hunters, it's probably more like your health or your gun. Honestly, I would rather have my health. Like, there's a lot of ways that you can get around that whole firearms deal. Like, even if you've been in the hospital, for instance, like my uncle told something about muzzle-loading shotguns, so like, I'm gonna get me one. Me and my uncle, that was Dr. Dahlquist, we recognize that this is a real medical issue. You know, I hate it when people say, when people split, say, mental illness and medical issues. Because mental illness is a medical issue. It's really redundant when you say, you know, I have a mental illness, but I also have some medical issues regarding, say, my, you know, with my body. That's really redundant. Just be like, I have medical issues. That's all. But other than that, I'm doing really great. I gotta call IOP people later and leave a voicemail because I'm headed to do my final college class at my high school, which is, yeah, I know what you're guys thinking, like, what did he say? But, yeah. You know, I'm really happy that I'm talking to you guys, because it just kind of relieves like a lot of stress sometimes. But I gotta go because I'm gonna call my mother, which is